Raider Nation, welcome back to another episode of the Raiders NFL Draft Podcast. With you this week from the NFL Scouting Combine in Indianapolis. Rhett, Bucky Brooks back with you as always, and it's our great pleasure to get a chance to welcome first-year Raiders GM Tom Telesco as you embark on this monumental task, Tom, right, to get this franchise, back to where they want to go in relatively short order, right? So welcome for one, and then two, how would you describe the challenges, right, of coming in and trying to get ready for this combine and get this whole staff moving in the right direction?
Well, first, thanks for doing this. You have true pros like you guys to come on here and do this. This is great. So, no, I mean, it's a lot of work, obviously. But there was already a great staff in place. And just watching them kind of work through, like watching the college draft meetings, I just kind of let them run it the way they usually run it. Yeah. I was really impressed with the detail and the work the guys have done. And then, leading on the pro staff right now to kind of get up and running and, just trying to, like I told you before, like I'm adjusting to them right now. We'll make some changes probably this summer going into next year, but right now I'm just going to adjust into them. But, the process, I'd already worked some of it already with my last job, so I wasn't coming in completely blind, obviously. Right. But it's been really nice. It's been a good fresh approach. It's been fun.
So, look, they're changing philosophies on how people treat the NFL Combine. You're seeing some people bring their entire staff. Some people are leaving their staff at home. What's your take? What's your philosophy when it comes to the Combine and where it kind of stands in the factory work?
Yeah, I mean, it's grown so much because it's such a big media event. It's still the same Combine it was when I first started in 1995. I will say that for the players, it's really, really important. For us, how we consume the information and digest it, to me, has changed a lot. And for me, like post-COVID, to be more efficient with it. So, for me, like I'm here all week, with the Raiders now, and I want to get my boots on the ground. But as I move forward, I may start to rethink it too. Like the most important thing, the combine, it's a medical, physical. Like obviously, I'm not in there for that.
Right.
Wouldn't want to be in there for that, anyways. That's a big part of it. The interview process. We can also do it by Zoom. 15 minutes with a player at the combine. It's nice, but it's not nearly enough. Like we don't break a whole lot of new ground. And then the workouts themselves, like all the measurable data that we do, I really need that.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily have to see it live. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I don't need to see the height and weight live. Like I trust what the numbers are going to be.
That's must-see TV,
Yeah,
Tom.
I know. The broad jump is great, but I don't need to see him do the broad jump. Yeah. So there's some efficiency parts of it. And then, the way our video people do the position workouts, like I can watch one player in 12 minutes do everything, every drill at the combine, where they're watching 35 DBs backpedal in a rapid fire. So trying to be more efficient with the work is the goal, because there's just so much that goes on here and you can't see everything all the time. So trying to be more efficient with that, trying to find the best way to kind of consume all the information here. But I know for us, like, this is not the biggest part of the puzzle, but it's still a really important part with the medical, meeting the kids for a little bit, and then all the measurable data that we get is really important to us.
And, you mentioned the interview process, and while 15 minutes is great, you'd love to have more. But in those 15 minutes, what are some of those things that you can really take away from that time that you spend with a player? And then, like, how much prep work goes into, the guys that you're going to spend that 15 minutes with ahead of time?
Our scouts have prep work on everybody. So that's where it starts off. We have background and stuff on everybody. To get ready for the interviews, like our college scouting director, Brandon Jurgen, kind of starts the interview. He has a little game plan for each player. Then we turn it over to one of the position coaches and really just talk football. And you get a feel for their personality. We're not grading personality, but you get a feel for the kid a little bit. And you get a little bit of feel for maybe how they learn football. Everybody learns it differently. But we'll get more time with these players even moving forward. A lot of these players, our guys talked at the Senior Bowl for a long time. Sometimes at a college campus, you can talk to a kid for a little bit. Pro day, you can probably spend more time. We have visits. We have more Zooms that we never used to do, what we do now, where you get like maybe 30 minutes, 45 minutes to an hour, face to face with a player on the Zoom. We can get a lot more done than maybe in a 15-minute interview with the combine. Sure. So we'll have plenty of time to do all that. But there's some work that goes into the interview to try and get the most you can. But really, it's personality, a little bit how they learn.
So one of the questions that typically always comes up, because people are fascinated by workouts, particularly when it comes to quarterbacks. From the scouting world, we've always talked about the importance of seeing a quarterback throw live so you can get a feel for it. Can you kind of explain why it's important to kind of get a feel for how a guy throws live for the quarterbacks that are here that are participating? What can you gain from watching them work out an event like this?
I guess it depends. Like if you're a scout that's already seen them practice or play, you've already seen that, or the Senior Bowl. There's a lot for the coaches who haven't seen these guys yet. It's their first introduction to a lot of these players, especially a quarterback coach see a quarterback. They want to see the mechanics of it live. There's that. We use a lot of data, which is great, and we kind of like blend that with what our eyes see. We're scouts at heart. We want to see the motion, see the ball. Does it come off his hand? See the velocity with our own eyes. On tape, you can get a feel for the arm strength, but sometimes it's great to see it. You get that feel of it. So you get a chance to see that here. I fully know, and I always tell the quarterbacks, but they don't really want to hear it. Like, you're throwing to receivers you've never thrown to before. The way they do the routes may be different than what you've done before. They're running an out route around a cone. There's no cones on an NFL field. So if you're not pinpoint accurate in a combine workout, that doesn't bother me. I'd like to see you compete and throw a little bit. I don't care if you're not right on in every throw. It's just hard. Every receiver's running at a different speed. You don't know these guys that well. So, don't overthink it. You just played 2, 3, sometimes 4 years of college football. We've seen every throw. And it's a little extra on top to see it. So.
And obviously in that group and in that position, everything's, different by player, right? It's, it's hard to paint it with one brush with that position. But and knowing where your focus is now, but knowing that you've also really hit on a high-level quarterback in the draft in the past, are there lessons you can learn from that evaluation process, whether that's, needed this year or 5 years or 10 years down the road?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, early on in San Diego when I first arrived there, and Phillip Rivers was the quarterback, and we knew, like, hey, Phillip isn't going to play until he's 50. Right. I got pretty close. But so, we have to have another plan for the next quarterback, because if the gap's too large, we're not going to be here anymore. So, we really scouted the quarterbacks very hard early on in San Diego, and, we kept comparing them to Phillip. And it's, nobody can play. Yeah. Right. So you kind of learn, hey, look, these guys are coming in the league and they're playing. So, I know Phillip was up here, Peyton Manning's up here, but, there's all different levels of quarterbacks, and they're also college quarterbacks. The quarterback Phillip is right now was not what he was the last year at NC State. So, kind of have an open mind with that, number one. I think that's important. And then two, at least with my background with Justin Herbert and Phillip Rivers and, Peyton Manning and different, like, to see how they prepared during the week, to know what it takes Monday through Saturday, to know, hey, the next guy that we draft or sign needs to have these skills, these preparation skills, leadership skills that you have to have in that position. And I've seen it with my own eyes, so I kind of can make comparisons that way.
So every team builder kind of has a set of core traits that they look for when they're bringing a player in. You jump into a new organization. What are some of the core characteristics that you're looking for potential prospective Raiders?
Yeah, I mean, try and keep it, simple, but, it's, toughness. If you look at our head coach, like, I think he wants some toughness on the football team. That's pretty easy to see, Fair. Which you should want. So you have a level of toughness. And then, I'm always looking for, like we talk about drive and desire to be great. And those are two traits that you can tell in a college player, based, talking to a lot of people looking for examples of how much they really love to play. Because everybody's talented at the NFL level, so you got to try and find the margins and where you can improve. And a lot of it's just, how much do you love it and how much you really want to work at it, because you're going to have to work at it when you get here. In college, you may be such a great athlete, you can beat your one-on-one matchups just based on ability, which a lot of these kids did in high school because they're just better than their opponents. And even in college sometimes, we have a pass rusher who's a pro prospect, and the left tackle may be an accountant next year. It may not be a pro prospect. Okay, but you get to the NFL level, everybody's good. If you're a pass rusher, every left tackle that week is like a real guy. So you got to, come up with techniques and fundamentals. You got to use the techniques and fundamentals, and you have to be able to work on that. So, drive and desire to be great, you need that, practice-wise, preparation-wise, off-season-wise. So if we can get toughness and then those two traits, we can figure out the rest.
You mentioned AP and the relationship that you guys have to have. How would you describe how that works? The balance between, like, hey, Tom, we'd really love to have a player like this, or you'd be like, hey, we think this guy's a really good player. How can you make it work? Yeah. Like, how does that back and forth?
Just like that. It's just you're just discussing. Football people discussing football. We'll have like a vision of what we want on offense and defense, and then we'll have discussions on do players fit or not. And the great thing about the draft is your pool is so much bigger. And if there's ever a player that we just can't get on the same page with, maybe a position coach, a coordinator, or a regional scout, myself, head coach, it's very easy to say, you know what, just take them off. Like, sure. We got plenty of guys. Let somebody else worry about them. We got other guys. Free agency is harder. The pool is smaller. And that you got to have some discipline to pull the guy off because, you're investing money and sometimes, multiple years and guaranteed money. So, but the draft a little easier to kind of move on from a guy, but it's just discussions. You try and, you come to a conclusion. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. And kind of work from there.
So it's funny because you brought up free agency and the way the calendar hits, free agency happens before the draft. Philosophy on free agency versus the draft, like how do you use them in combination to build a great team?
Yeah, I've been trying to push free agency for after the draft. It's never going to happen.
Nice.
It'd make things so much easier.
Right.
Look, as we move forward in the future, it would be more of resigning our own players that we really know rather than using UFAs. And then, we're always going to lean on the draft. But right now where we are, it's like, it's really a new head coach, new GM. We'll have to use free agency a little bit more to supplement the roster. You're not necessarily going to get a lot of difference makers in free agency because they usually don't come to the market. And then, what we try and do is, to kind of, asset allocation, kind of diversify a little bit. Because, as much as we love free agency, the hit rate's not real high.
Yeah.
Football's hard when you go from team to team. It's not like baseball. A third baseman for the Blue Jays is seeing the same pitches as when you're playing for the Mets. It's the same thing, and football is just different. It's hard. Yeah. It's hard changing teams. So, but we have to be really wise with how we spend in free agency. But we do have some spots that we need to do to get kind of filled, kind of supplement it, and hopefully you get the roster to a point where you get into the draft and you don't feel like there's certain places or positions you have to draft. That's the best case scenario because, whatever needs we may have in March and April now, they change. Like needs change constantly. You may have a position group you think's really strong, and then one guy gets hurt, one guy's not performing the way you thought. All of a sudden, it's a weak group.
Right.
So try and get to the point with the roster that we go in the draft, we can be pretty clean and draft anywhere we want.
When you look at this draft class, like let's take a 30,000-foot view. Like, are there positions to you that stand out as positions of strength just within the prospect group as a whole? Like depth-wise or anything?
People always ask that. I mean, who really knows? I mean, these are all college players where we're kind of ranking them on our draft board.
Right.
We'll see in the league like what we're stronger than others. But I don't know. I mean, we look at less just first-round strengths, more like the whole draft, or at least rounds 1 through 5. It's all relative to what you like and what you run. And, everybody's board is different, which I was explaining yesterday on the podium, like there's no consensus board. Like if there is, I don't know about it. I wouldn't want it anyways.
Yeah.
Because we're all looking for different things. We all want a little bit different scheme. We all have different visions of how we want to make it. We have different opinions. So, we kind of work off that.
What's the best part of the combine for you? Like, what's the best part of this entire week? Like we talk about
Besides this
interview. What is the best part? Because we've been doing it for so long. You talk about 95. Like you've been coming to a lot of times. What has been the best part of like coming to this over the years?
I guess the best part, you're around football all day long.
Yeah.
And it's as a GM, when you're in the office, there's a lot of things that come to your door that have nothing to do about football, but you have to take care of it. It's part of your job. But when you get to the combine, it's just football, and it's just the draft. It's college scouting. It's hanging out with your scouts, hanging out with your front office. And for me right now, getting to know everybody a lot better. As you know, like a college scout, like everybody grades differently.
Sure. Yeah.
Everybody sees like a grading scale differently. But as you get to know the scout, you kind of know like, hey, if he's got a 6'2" in this guy, in my head it's really a 6'4".
Yeah.
I just know how he grades. Like he's a low grader or he's a high grader. You get a feel for what guys like or don't like. So I like just being around, hanging out, and then. I'm a skill position guy at heart, so I like watching the receivers run.
Yeah.
Just to see what they run. I like
Drag me part
I
of
like
it.
watching the DBs and see what they run.
Backwards.
So it's just to watch the 40s and just see because those measurables they're important to us. I mean, we're trying to increase our odds in hitting on a player, and there's exceptions from time to time. But when a corner runs 4.75. His odds are tough. They're tough. I mean, I'm not saying he won't make it,
it's tougher.
but I'm saying the odds are lower. So but that's part of our job is to kind of blend the numbers with the scouting eye, kind of bring it all together and make a conclusion.
So Bucky and I make a habit of really digging in on our mock drafts, right? And it's everyone's favorite part of this time of year, but. For you guys, obviously, it's not the entertainment value that it is for us. When will you start running through scenarios like that in a mock draft type of setting?
Probably more, certainly after free agency when teams sign some players. So to do one right now doesn't make any sense at all. Yeah. No offense.
You want to do one right now? We can go through the first 12 picks and see what's left.
But probably typically, around April 1st. I mean, I do a lot of draft management, draft prep to try and same thing. You got trying to figure out where guys are going to go and simulate everything because what I don't want to have happen draft day is something comes up we didn't anticipate, and now we're talking about it. It's too late. And there's a clock over my head ticking. Yeah. So I'm trying to go with. So I do a lot of I'll read every mock draft really from probably April 1st on. I read them all, and in my head I'll go through. All right, I'm on the clock. Here we go. Okay, what would you do? Yeah. So it's kind of helpful.
That is cool.
Yeah.
Do you want to just write down who the pick at 13 is here? We'll just close it up.
If I do that right now, I'd go home. I got other work to do too. So if I do that,
that'd be great. What a deal!
I'd go work at a free agency right now.
All right. Well, we'll save that for the next episode of the Raiders NFL Draft Podcast. Tom, thanks so much for hanging out.
Thanks for having
spending
me.
a few minutes here with us. This is
great.
been fun.
Yeah.
Congrats on the new gig. We're excited to kind of be a part of this in a small way, and wish you all the best here in the next couple of weeks.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.